Well, I've been working in the cellular industry since I was about 20 years old, and this is probably the most exciting time I've seen just this last year or two, and I think it'll continue for a couple years because of the proliferation of smartphones and really easy devices to use for consumers. The amount of data that's being consumed is just skyrocketing, depending on the numbers you see. By 2 to 3 times a year, which over a decade gives you at least 1,000 times increase in data. So as a result, the cellular networks, the things we've been doing for forever, for 30 years, and where they're really engineered for voice, it needs to be a complete paradigm shift. So really, operators are looking at massive, almost shutdown of their network during, peak times and in peak markets. And so looking at very aggressive ways to add new infrastructure in a cost-effective manner or add more bandwidth in a cost-effective manner, neither of which are very easy.
Okay, great. So, as far as the innovations that can address these challenges, what are the most exciting ones to use?
Yeah, I mean, I think because of the magnitude of the challenge, pretty much anything that works will be great. But I see really two key things. I mean, there's lots of things that might give you 50% here, 50% there, and 5 years ago, such things were interesting, but these days, that buys you a couple months as far as the data demands. So you need things that give 5x, 10x, 20x, and there's really, I think, only two things that can possibly do that, both of which we have talks on this afternoon. So there's my panel, which is about radically shrinking the cell sizes in a cost-effective manner, which comes down to deploying infrastructure much more intelligently in sort of a precision manner than has been done in the past. So it's a capacity play rather than a coverage play. So picocells, femtocells are all about putting capacity hotspots that are inexpensive, where backhauls available that hopefully suck a lot of traffic off the network. And I think this hopefully can get us about half of what we need, maybe more, depends. And there's a lot of, I think, very intelligent network engineering that will need to go on to support this new paradigm, which I think will be discussed a lot in my panel. And the other is we just need a lot more bandwidth. The problem is there isn't a lot more bandwidth at traditional frequencies. So people are looking at very, higher frequencies that have previously been considered untenable for broadband communication, but they're looking at it with a renewed light just because of the need. Necessity being the mother of all invention. And so we had to talk, for example, this morning on stuff at the hundreds of gigahertz, and we'll have a talk this afternoon by a real pioneer, in my opinion, as far as a visionary at Samsung, Jerry P., who's really talked Samsung into going with his vision for 40, 50 gigahertz mobile broadband with thousands of antennas at the base station to make up for the path loss that's traditionally made such high frequencies unviable for longer range communication. But if you add hundreds of antennas, then all of a sudden you have a very rich channel and you can make up the loss. But of course, it's a hugely difficult engineering problem, and I think we'll hear about that from him this afternoon. I think these are the two key things that are real paradigm shifters: the small cells and the high frequency millimeter wave communication.
Okay, wonderful. And then, do you see opportunities? I mean, antennas, and these are businesses that are usually larger companies. Do you see any opportunities for smaller companies?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I think already in the small cell space, we've seen a lot of disruptive, particularly femtocell companies. A lot of the more traditional vendors, the Alcatel-Lucents, the Huawei's, the Motorola's, the Nokia Siemens, are probably going to capture most of the picocell market because it is kind of a natural extension of the traditional base station market. But in femtocells, we've seen a lot of disruption from small companies, and so I think we'll see continued acquisitions in that space. As far as in the millimeter wave, I think the technology it'll take to manufacture all these small antennas on chips, steer them, I think a lot of startups will have things to contribute there. I'm not exactly sure which ones, but I do think so. Yes, there'll be a lot of hopefully startup activity in these two areas.
Okay, great. Can you give, for people who might not know, a definition of a femtocell and picocell?
Yeah, great. So a femtocell, you can kind of think of it as Wi-Fi that uses cellular. So it has similar prices, range, power, and even backhaul. So it uses a DSL modem or a cable modem as backhaul. So it's very much like installing a Wi-Fi access point in your house, just that it actually looks like a base station to your cell phone. So in some sense, it's complementary to Wi-Fi, or even redundant if you already have good Wi-Fi offloading. But it's attractive because it uses licensed spectrum. It can be managed, and it allows for seamless handovers, which currently don't work very well from Wi-Fi to cellular. So the picocell is more like a traditional base station, so it's deployed by the AT&T, the Verizon, or the vendor, and it pretty much looks like a normal base station, except for it's much smaller and lower power. So it's about an order of magnitude, factor of 10 cheaper, factor of 10 lower power, factor of 10 smaller. So this allows you to put it on light lamp posts or in other places where, in urban areas particularly, people don't want these big towers on their buildings or showing. And so this is a small form factor device that can light up, for example, a block or a couple square blocks, or you can put a few in a mall or things like this. So it's a traditional base station, but it's shrunk down.
One more question, and then if you want to add anything, then we
Sure.
can do that. So far today, what's the most interesting or exciting thing you've heard that surprised you?
Well, being a professor that directs the center and organizes all the talks, I'm not supposed to be surprised by any of them. But that said, I thought it was. I actually did not know that Qualcomm had been able to shrink down pretty much every single thing in the phone to a single chip, including the CPU, the GPS, all the radios. I knew they'd gotten all the radios almost in, but I didn't know they had the GPS, the CPUs, everything but the kitchen sink into a single chip, which is just amazing for me because I worked back at Qualcomm back when we were psyched to get there's the receiver down to 3 chips for a single standard, and we thought we were just geniuses for being able to do that, and now they have 100 times more of that in one chip. So I found that just, for me, it was just a wake-up moment where just realizing how far things have come even just in the last 3 or 4 years.
Okay, thank you. That's wonderful. Would you like to add anything?
I mean, I don't know. Nothing off the top of my head. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Okay. Thanks.
I don't know. Did Jeff tell you? Did he talk to you about the Austin Advisory Board for RCR?
Yeah, I think I agreed to be on it,
You're
actually.
in. Okay, good.
Luckily, I haven't.
thought so.
Luckily, I haven't asked for. I agreed with the caveat that you guys wouldn't ask me for very much, and I'd mainly be just, occasional sounding board or a figurehead. But
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, but the video interviews. I think we're going to be doing more and more of those. So we'll try to
Okay.
come to you if we want to do that because I know that you're busy. But
Sure. Yeah. If there's something, I mean, particularly my research is really focused on small cells and kind of optimizing these, and I'm working with Qualcomm and Nokia, Siemens, and Huawei, and TI, and Cisco and Intel. They all fund my research along with the National Science Foundation. So I do think I am the academic guy on that area. So I mean, I can give a sort of and because I interact with all these companies, I'll hopefully give what I take to be the truth and not just one particular
Yeah.
company's version of the truth.
Yeah,
Of course, it's just still my
that's
opinion.
really valuable. That's good. You don't have to hold on to that anymore.
Okay.